So today is talking about hijab, veil, khimar, and jilbab. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hafsibah. It is my ordained name given by my murshids. But I have been given name by my parents as Gayatri Wedotami. But I am not from India. I am from Indonesia. And I come from so many tribes, Javanese, Maduris, and half Chinese, half Arab, half Bugis, half Makassaris, and so on. So do you know that Javanese tribe is one of the largest Muslim tribe in the world? Because there are more than 90 million Muslims that are Japanese. So it is much more than Iranian Muslims. Do you know how to speak Javanese language? Do you know Javanese people exist and they are Muslim? So this is important to say before I talk about head covering, before I talk about hijab and jilbab. Of course, there are Javanese who are Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, or retain their indigenous beliefs, of course. But more than 90% of Javanese are Muslims. And they were actually already embracing Islam since 7th century. But most scholars say that we have been just Muslim just after 14th century during the Demak Sultanate. No, that's not true. Demak is doing Sunniization to many Muslims during that time in Java. So there are about 3 or 5 waves or Muslim migration to Nusantara, or we call it today Indonesia, and some part of Malaysia, some parts of Thailand, and some part of Philippines and Singapore and Brunei. Okay, so Nusantara is actually a large archipelago and continent from Southeast Asia. So this is also important to tell you that there is an existence of peripheral Muslim world that had been embracing the true Islam from the Ahlul Bait of Islam, from the Ahlul Bait of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Imam Ali ibn Abi Thalib and Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein and Imam Muhammad al-Hanafiyah. From the beginning of the emergence of Islam from the 7th century, they were migrating away from the Umayyad persecution and oppression so that they can live in Nusantara, and because there was a trade network, we call it maybe Redanite network, the spice and frankincense trade network that include Nusantara, include Banda, and so on, the nutmeg, the cloves, and so on. So this is important before I continue. No, I'm not saying that before the Sunniization, the Nusantara Muslims were Shia as the categorization that we have today in this kind of modern scholars categorization. No, that's not what I mean. So the first wave of migrations of these Ahlul Bayt of Muslims, they have no such thing of Sunni Shia, especially no such thing as Ismaili and the Isna Ash'ari, or you call it as the 12er and the 7ers or such thing. No. This is not what I mean. Even I dispute or argued the term like the Shia Kaisanite. It's a scholarly term that I dispute when I look carefully into how Islam was emerging in Nusantara. For example, a few decades before the Fatimid Sultanate or the Caliphate in Egypt, the Fatimid was established in the 9th century. Okay, there was this Pearl kingdom, and they were actually very much venerating the Ahlul Bayt. They were just like the Kaisanite, but they were not the kind of this Shia Kaisanate that was defined by these scholarly people, So I dispute all this argument before the era of the falling of Abbasid, the 13th century. This is my argument as a historian scholar, because my major was history. So this is my argument from the book The Beloved and I, one of the greatest books from this century, which was written by Sheikh Ali Haidar. So according to this book, that I understand is Tawheed that was done or was practiced and manifested by our Prophet Muhammad SAW and his Ahlul Bayt and all the followers of this true Islam is actually vernacularization. What is that? That is doing the local expression, that is localized, being localized, And I don't like to use the word acculturation or assimilation because that would be misleading and using the other kind of framework that is very Protestantism and Western mindset. So I want to use a term that is used by my Tariko, that is vernacular. So the first wave of Islam that come to Indonesia or Nusantara is this real Islam that is vernacular. That is not neither Arab nor Persian nor Roman, because during our Prophet times, the culture that he was living there, wherever in Mecca or Medina and so on, were mixed with Roman and Arab and Persian and such things. But that's not happening in the first wave of Islam in Nusantara. Why? Because Islam is neither Roman, neither Arab, nor Persian, no Persian. Okay? So this is important to see. First of all, before I talk about hijab, jalabah, khimar, and aurat, Tawheed that was practiced and manifested and preached by the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt was and is vernacularization. So the logic is the first migrants from where the prophets lived, they were avoiding or they want to survive the real transmission from the prophets. So they went to India, they went to China, they went to Nusantara, and maybe they went to Africa And all this peripheral world of Muslims, actually they preserve or they retain this true Islam. Those who stayed in the centers of the caliphates, whether Umayyads or Abbasids or then the Ottoman, they have to compromise. And how come this compromise thing, we call it as the real Islam? No. The vernacularized Islam, that is the Islam. The vernacularized teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, of the Prophet, is the one that is the real Islam. To preserve the real Tawheed, you have to understand what is Tawheed. If you call it the unity of God, then also the unity of humanity, the unity of human being. All of us, Chinese, Indian, Javanese, Maduris, hidup Madura, Arabs, Pakistani, some of my ancestors were Pakistani too, and so on. Sorry, I forgot to mention my Pakistani ancestors. They were all, we are all, they are all come from one God. So, does Islam or is Islam a religion of colonial, like Umayyad, like Abbasid, like Ottoman, doing manifest destiny, doing colonization, doing empire, doing conquest? Is that the real Islam? Of course, I argue that that is not Islam. I disagree that that was what our Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali wanted us from when we embrace Islam. So even the Quran says that God can create us in one nation, into one tribe, into one language speakers, into one religion. But God creates us into so many nations, so many tribes, so many language speakers, and so many religions, so that we can know each other. Yeah. This is why I often have to think a lot. I have to switch from my language. I come from a language different from English. My mother language is not English. Even my first language is different from my mother language. So English is my third language or fourth language maybe. So this is important to remember that Tawheed is one humanity, and from the Quran we know that Islam that has been survived, has been rise again by the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, is not a manifest destiny religion, is not an imperialist religion, is not a colonial religion. This is why, in my argument, the Muslims who live in the so-called peripheral Muslim world or peripheral Islamic world, like the Africa, like the Nusantara, like the India, and maybe America too, I don't know, maybe in Mesoamerica, there were already Muslims have reached there before the European, who knows? So, maybe in Hawaii, there were already Muslims before the European came, because Hawaiian are Austronesian like us in Nusantara. So, this peripheral Muslims world is actually the one who survive, who preserve, who retain the real vernacular Islam. This is my first argument. And to understand my arguments about hijab and jilbab and khimar and aurat and so on. So my next argument, or the second argument, is when you say that Islam is submission to God, but you use that argument so that a person must follow a particular culture that is not fit with her or his habitat. It is not fit with their condition, either the climate, either the physical condition, and so on. That is such thing as manifest destiny or colonialization. Yeah. So don't use this argument to insert your culture, to insert your typical habit, which is only fit to your habitat, which is only fit to your climate where you live. This does not make sense, because from the beginning God already said that God creates all of us in so many nations, so many tribes, so many languages. It's not into one nation, not into one habitat. So you can see so many nations wearing so many kinds of head dressing, so many clothings, so many ways of living. Not just eating wheat, we eat rice, we eat sagu. Our women went to the field, to the rice field and worked. Our tribes are not patrilineal, but we are bilateral, and even matrilineal. We are not patriarchal. From the beginning of the coming of Islam, we preserve this matriarchal society and this bilateral society. We don't become paternalistic. Not until the next migration wave during the colonialization, during the European colonialism, or during the Ottoman era. So this is very, very important to understand. Do you want to call Islam as a colonial religion? You want to change Tawhid like this European Western colonial imperialist mindset? That's up to you. So previously we talked about Faroja, that is usually translated as a vagina, but we here also talk about the secret or hidden message related to this word, and also Hafiz, that would usually translated as keeping or desire or a priest, and then Gudu, which usually translated as lowering your gaze, and then Absor, which usually translated as how you see, how you look at, so lowering your gaze. So now we talk about Khimar, which usually translated as head covering, which this is actually a recent translation, because in the time during Prophet Muhammad SAW, the khimar means covering your breast, covering your body, not necessarily covering your head or your hair. Because the word khimar, it actually comes or cognates with the word khamar. Khamar is a fermented drink that makes you intoxicated, which makes you drunken. So I want to ask, if your hair as a woman, do you think your hair as a woman makes a man intoxicated, that they want to come and get you, desiring you? Of course, maybe in some tribes that they have never seen female's hair, that would happen, But not all tribes. There are millions of tribes in the world that they don't have head covering as their daily clothing, like in Java, like in Madura, like in Borneo, like in Celebes or Sulawesi, like in Sumatra, like in Papua, like in Maluku, where you got your spices came to Arab, or camphor came from Sumatra, and camphor is mentioned in the Quran. So of course the word khimar does not mean veil that covering your hair or your hair. So this is the first thing. So I forget to mention the word aura that is mentioned in the verse An-Nur, verse 31. It actually also mentioned in the Zabur and Injil, and it actually means, according to the Beloved and I, it actually means about nakedness, about being naked, and it is related to our private parts, and it is a tricky word that has also a hidden meaning, an esoteric meaning that is only transmitted to the disciple of Muhammad and his Ahlul Bayt. Yeah, so that is a word that I forget to mention that is related that is mentioned in the verse 31 Surah An-Nur. So I will talk about the last surah, that is Al-Ahzab, verse 59. This is okay. So khimar means something general about covering your body, but in this verse of the Quran, it especially talks about covering your breast. So this is what I want to tell according to the Beloved and I, or the book Buyruk al-Furqan. The clothing that is usually withdrawn like a crown, so that it will cover your breast. This is for the female disciple. And to unveil your face, so to reveal your face, but do not exhibit or do not display your zinat, your beauty, or your jewelries, or your decoration, like is not usual in that particular community. So where something that is normal in the society, that is considered as usual in the society. For example, this kind of decoration is common in China during at that time of perhaps Yuan or Ming or Manchurian dynasty. Yeah? And also do not display this beauty that is not common in your society, except to several people. And these several people is called the mahram, like your husband, like your brother, like your father, and so on. So this is very important to understand that the Quran verses does not imply you to cover your face, nor to cover your hair, but do not wear something that is not usual, that is not common in your society where you live, where you stay. So if you are an Arab, or if you are a Persian woman, come to Madura, for example, my very beautiful hometown of my ancestors, come from China and from Java, live in Madura, you wear something like the Arabs or like the Persian. That is not in accordance with the Quran. Wear like the Maduris people in Madura, in Pasongsongan, in Sumenep, in Bangkalan, in Sampang, and so on. So do you know Maduris tribe? Yes, I always get excited with Madura Island, with the Maduri tribe. Almost 100% of Maduris, they are Muslims, and there are about 10 million Maduris people in this world, including in the Arab countries. So I would like to summarize this verse, Surah An-Nur, verse 31. I skip about all the list about the mahram and non-mahram. So this is the transmission that I received from Guru Al-Furqan or the Beloved and I, that this verse is talking about moderation in wearing, in your fashion style. Yeah, it must be in accordance with the culture, with the habit of the society, of the community where you live and where you stay. And I think it's also have to be related that it must be common with all the universal people in this world. Yeah. So you don't have to display, you do not display, especially maybe not only women but also men, you do not display your beauty or your jewelries, your decoration, which is related to the culture, yeah. That is to provoke others in terms of sexual provocation. So do not go beyond exaggeration. Be always modest and decent according to the culture where you live. Just be normal, just being in accordance with the culture. If you are Chinese, wear like a Chinese. If you are a Maduris, wear like a Maduris. If you are a Javanese, wear like a Javanese. Wear sanggul, wear kebaya. So Islam is so beautiful. You don't have to wear the Arab and the Persian head covering. We have beautiful sanggul, we have beautiful kemban, we have beautiful kebaya. Also the Malays, they are having the most beautiful baju kurung in the world. You don't have to be like the Arab and the Persian to be a Muslim, right? Because Tawhid is one humanity. So I would like to summarize Surah Al-Ahzab verse 59. It is in accordance with the previous surah, Surah An-Nur, yeah, that I have been talking about. The first of all is related with hifz al-nafs. It is to protect yourself. So when you wear something, it must not make you harm. So you must wear something that is comfortable for you, also with the context where you live. So the word hijab, jilbab, and khimar, and aurat, as I said, is according to what I understand from the Beloved and I. Of course, when you live in Iran or maybe you live in Arab countries, if the culture is common with head covering and they want to make or to define the word veil, khimar, or hijab or jilbab as veil, as head covering, it's okay. But of course, when you come to Madura, my very beautiful island Madura, or when you come to Java, where you have one of the largest Muslim tribes in the world, our daily outfit, we don't have head covering until recently, until we are misleaded. People here are misleaded, getting misleading by understanding hijab, jilbab, khimar as head covering. No, it's not like that at the first time. The first wave of Islamization in Indonesia, not even in the second wave of Islamization in Indonesia, only the third Islamization in Indonesia happened to be like that. Okay, So even in this surah, Al-Ahzab, you have to display your face. Do not cover it. And do not endanger yourself. Yeah. So this is very important always to fit yourself with the context where you live, with the culture where you stay, where you live, and so on. So that is my preaching from the Beloved and I. And from what I understand from the Beloved and I, Islam is teaching about Tawhid, and Tawhid is not just about the unity of God, but also the unity of humanity. And Islam, Taslim, Muslim, it means submission to God, something like that. But in this submission of God does not mean like the imperialism or like manifest destiny or like colonialization. So what I understand about Islam and Tawhid is not a manifest destiny religion. Islam is doing Tawhid, and so if it is doing Tawhid, it is doing vernacularization. This is what the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Ahlul Bait from Imam Ali to Imam of the age, Imam Zaman, they all were and are doing this vernacularization. And so when we understand this, when we understand the framework and the mindset about Islam, that is Tawhid and that is one humanity, so we will understand fully, we will grasp and receive what the Imam Zaman is teaching through this book, The Beloved and I, or Buyruk al-Furqan, about so many things, including about the clothing or the code of fashion that has been misleaded, that people are misleading by today's colonialized Islam, by the imperial consensus Islam that was created by the Umayyad, established by the Abbasid, and popularized by the Ottoman. So thank you very much for listening to me. Sidamastu, which means may you be perfected. Billahi bisabil haq, wastabikul khairat. So today is talking about hijab, veil, khimar, and jilbab. Oh no, your English is not good. You don't have the accent. And you don't have the good grammar. Your English teacher will angry at you. Oh my god. This Chinese outfit very beautiful. I hope they have also outfit for the Javanese tribe people. Not Japanese, Javanese. People from Java Island. Also Madura people, Maduris people. We are very beautiful people from Madura Island. We also have very beautiful outfit. Also the Sundanese tribe. They also have very beautiful outfit. Many Sundanese, like almost 100% of Sundanese are Muslim. They should also have the beautiful outfit here, filter in TikTok, not just the Chinese outfit, yeah. I hope when they have it, I will use this filter from Java, from Madura, from Sunda, from Bugis, from Makassar, from Malay, from all over the Nusantara, the Muslim tribes in Nusantara. They are beautiful people, and we don't wear head covering as our daily outfit. until recently.